Super. So I pinned the comment. Really fun session for us today because we've done bunch of sessions on health, fitness, yoga, nutrition, Ayurveda. But I'm really excited to have Adit Zaveri with me. Adit is a good friend. I've known him for years, and he's also world number 155 in squash. I've always wanted to be. I'm a big sports buff myself. Played a lot
Yeah.
of sports when I was young, but could never become a professional or take it up very seriously. And considering we're in lockdown right now as well, I think a lot of things that people want to discuss with you. Viewers have sent in questions as well. But Adit, the first thing is, and the most fun part of every sports person's journey is tell us about your journey, like from childhood, what got you to squash. I know you
Yeah.
played. You were a swimmer before you started playing
Correct.
squash, and then
Correct.
you went to squash, then you came back actually and got into the corporate world for a bit and then went
Yeah.
back to squash.
Correct.
So that
Yeah.
story is really interesting. Tell us the story.
Yeah. Firstly, man, thank you for asking me on this live. I appreciate it. I hope you're well with your family, and it's really good to talk to you after a long time, man. So thank you for that. Um,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Unfortunately,
So,
I'm not with my family. As you can see, I'm in the office. We've been at work for 60 days
oh yeah.
because essential services have to stay open, right? So we've
Right.
been at
Fair
the
enough.
office for 60 days.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah, so I mean, backtracking, yeah, I was always a swimmer. My dad was pretty much a professional swimmer. He was a three-time national champion. Come from a family of just professional athletes, really. My dad's sister was a national champion table tennis player. So for me, it kind of made sense to, go into sport at a young age. Was a swimmer and then I was a gymnast. I did really well in both actually, but unfortunately, there was just a limit to how good you could do, given the fact that like India's platform for those two sports just wasn't where you wanted it to be at, like 12, 15 years ago. And about 10 or 11 years old, I kind of just fell into squash's lap. And I think first year, second year in, I started doing really well. I had kind of reached like top four, top two in India at under 11, under 13. And from there, kind of rest is history. So then I went to Millfield, which is a boarding school. I was in Cathedral, obviously, with you for most of my life. Did really well, pretty well. Like as a junior, I was always top four until the under 19 category where I was in boarding school. Then I went to Franklin and Marshall College, as you probably know the college, where I was recruited, did pretty good there. But then after that, I guess I was like quite mentally saturated from squash. I was just, so many years of trying to perform, train, your whole life kind of, as you know, I think you started doing running and stuff, right? You
Yeah,
got into quite a lot of running. So as you know, like when you get into something at a young age, um, you get so it becomes a bubble. Like your whole life revolves around that. Your social life kind of takes a hit. You sacrifice so much. I left home when I was 15. I'm still not home. I'm 28 now. So,
yeah,
it's a lot of sacrifice, a lot of early mornings, late nights, and all that I think just took a toll on me, and I wanted to use that hunger and drive to motivate me somewhere else,
yeah.
which was finance. That's what I studied, and I really had a passion for it. And I got extremely lucky to get an amazing job in New York in a hedge fund for about 2 years-ish, right out of the gate in college. And it was an amazing opportunity. Really worked hard there, traveled the world, met some incredible people. My boss is David Rothschild. He really taught me a lot in those 2 years. But I think after all that, around 2017 end, I think the hunger, the internal passion of squash just started calling me back. So
Yeah.
that's kind of how I decided to take that call. Well, I can continuously do finance for the rest of my life because you can work at a desk and use your mind, but physically your body just is not capable of producing that same result like post 31, 32. So at
Yeah,
25, which was very late for a professional athlete,
yeah.
um, I decided to make the switch and kind of take a one-way ticket to Cairo, where I'm based now. My coach and team. So yeah, it's been a huge change, over the last 2 years, but I wouldn't really change it for anything. I love what I do. It's a lot of sacrifice and it's a big struggle, but I would say I'm an athlete at heart, and everyone who knows me knows like this is kind of what I was meant to do. So I really enjoy it.
So while you were working, right?
Hmm.
Obviously you couldn't spend enough time playing sports. So how did you
Yeah.
manage the two and still stay in the game, right? Because that's a really tough thing to do.
So, dude, I actually didn't touch a racket for 4 years, not
Okay.
once. like the day I graduated from college, which was the last
Yeah.
match I played, I think, in Harvard, where I was actually captain and we did really well. We finished top four in the country, F&M. From that day in March 2014 until 2017, and I didn't touch a racket. Like I cold turkey put my racket away, and I didn't have a racket when I wanted to come back to it. I had to find shoes, I had to buy a new racket. It was mad. So
You
like
just said, I'm done. Like,
I'm
I need
done.
to play.
I was like, I am done. Like I don't want to touch a racket. I'm so sick of this. I'm just like I'm so done, you know. So literally, yeah, when I started to think of coming back, like no one really understood how it's even possible. Because if you've not touched a racket, if you've not felt like a shot, you've obviously I put on a lot of weight, not fat, but I put on a lot of muscle weight. So squash players are all very lean and very,
Yeah.
narrow. Completely different physicality and what I'd built over those 3 years. I started doing professional boxing in a way. I
Right.
competitively, I was always very hungry, but not for squash. And I started
Yeah.
doing CrossFit, so a whole different body type. So when I said like I want to get on the squash court, I was like 15 kilos too heavy, and like I couldn't even hit like 3 shots right. You know, it was just like, did I even play this game? Was I even a good player ever?
Yeah. Yeah.
So many doubts, to start from scratch pretty much. It was like scratch essentially at the age of 25, which was mad.
So where
Um,
did you start playing again? Like when did you start playing? How do you start playing?
I
Did you
think
play a few tournaments to see whether you had it in
Yeah,
you,
so
or you just said,
exactly,
I'm going
exactly.
back to
So
Cairo
like
now?
I started with the process, I was kind of weaning off New York where I was working and moving back to Bombay, where I was between New York and Singapore and Bombay. And at that point, I said, let me go on squash court. And obviously, I was so nervous, I was so scared because as any human who's given your whole life to it, you don't want to just be average at it. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
if you
Yeah.
can do something good, you can't just be average at it now.
Yeah.
When I went back, I was like, God, I love this, but how can I ever do what I want to do? Like, just so far out of my reach. But I literally dedicated every cell in my body to just being better every day. I didn't think of the big picture. I just started taking every day as I could. And it was started with like a local tournament, where I played okay. Like I was like, wow, like, in a month, 2 months, I'm beating some guys who I never thought I'd beat. And I was like, okay, I still have the touch, I still have the skill. Now it's more about physicality.
Okay.
Then obviously worked so hard at the diet, the sleep, the training, and I was relentless, and I still am. Like I probably work a little way too hard, and there's obviously a risk of injury, but it's just how I'm built. And
Yeah.
then I think 6 months in of just training in and out, I said, let me play. I think it was the nationals, the Indian national tournament. And there were 5 rounds to even qualify into the main draw. And I didn't qualify, unfortunately. But I got
Sure.
to top 16 in the men's category in India from like not playing 4 months ago. I had not touched a racket.
Yeah.
So I was like, you know what? That's not bad. Like, that's truly not bad. And a lot of my friends who were in the squash circuit said, just come hit with us, come train with us. You are good. You're
Yeah.
physical. My fitness coach at the time was like, come on, keep pushing. And then that was it, man. Avalanched into just saying, man, I can do it all. I relentlessly believe in myself, and I don't know where I'm gonna go with it, but
Yeah.
I'm gonna go. And yeah, and that's just kind of how my journey started
And,
again.
and and tell us about Cairo. Like when did you decide? Okay, lock, stock, and barrel. I'm just going now.
Yeah,
I'm gonna give this a shot. I'm gonna leave what I'm doing and
yeah.
just go to
So
Cairo.
I think after this tournament in like November, December 2017, 2018 beginning, I called one of my really good friends who went to Millfield with me, which is my boarding school. He was actually a current like top 10 in the world player. I got very lucky to be with some amazing athletes in Millfield and squash. Two brothers, Muhammad and Marwan. One was world number one, if you can believe it, Muhammad
Yeah.
Shabaki, and his younger brother was like top five in the world. And I said, look, man, I'm kind of missing it. I want to go, but I need a coach. You need a coach in anything to excel in life, whether it's a teacher, professor, coach. You need it. He's like, look, man, like have someone. He's unbelievable. Been with him a few years, and I got introduced to arguably, I think, the best coach in the world right now. His name's Haisam. And I said, let me take a ticket there to see how I can gel with him because it's really important. Like Cairo is like an unknown for me. I've never been there
Yeah.
except as a
Yeah.
kid. Yeah, man, I went 2018 beginning, which is just a little over 2 years, and I was like, I'm not committing to this full time, but I want to go in and out to see if I can even adjust.
Sure.
And it was kind of like, man, I'm this guy, my coach, the team, just the environment of athletes. Man, my coach literally trains world number one in women's, at the time world number three, currently trains a world champion in men's. My friend who's like top 10 in the world as well, Like all the best players essentially in Cairo on different levels are with him. And then to him to take me was like I'm training with like the Messi or Ronaldo and in
Yeah,
football
yeah.
and squash. For me, I was
So
like
the
on
environment, the people around you, that's
man,
just
I literally
amazing.
surrounded myself with the best. And I'm lucky to do that, but they
Yeah,
recognize that I'm so hardworking that I'm going to do whatever I can to be there. And oh my God, I sucked when I went. Like I literally
yeah,
can't compare, right, to these guys. Like this is their life. Like as you and me come from like, or many Indians come from family business backgrounds where we are relentless at
yeah,
that.
yeah,
This is them. They
yeah,
just do this day in and day out. After football, squash is the biggest in Cairo.
yeah,
And yeah, so the first 4 or 5 months I was playing professional tournaments. So it's called the PSA,
yeah,
Professional Squash Association. But I wasn't like full time. I'd come back to Bombay after 2, 3 weeks and I'd come back. I wasn't full time settled there. But after the first 5, 6 months, and my ranking went up from, we started like 600 in the world, like right at the bottom. And in a few months, I was up to like 400, 300. I started doing well. I
yeah,
think it was that August. My season starts for us in September. I said, Mom, Dad, I know this is insane, but I want to go full time. I want to move there. I want to rent an apartment, and I want to put myself in the best possible position to be the best player. Now, I don't know where that takes me. Maybe it's world number
yeah,
one, maybe it's 500. Like, I don't know where that is. But if I don't
yeah,
give myself the entire chance, I would regret it for the rest of my life. And that August, I rented an apartment. It has been excruciatingly difficult because it's a very lonely place. All I
yeah,
do is squash, squash, squash. The language barrier is quite tough because they only speak Arabic, most of the people.
sure.
Um, of course, the first year, man, the struggle was just like a lot of late nights of just like almost feeling depressed and like mentally lonely and sad and not seeing results, right? Because you can't just go in
Yeah,
there thinking you're going to beat these guys who've been playing for 5 years. It's not going to
yeah,
happen. Slowly, man, the patience, the desire, the hunger, the early mornings, the tears, the loneliness all started encompassing himself into like few wins, 1 win, two
yeah,
wins, 3 wins. And my belief in myself never wavered. Whether I lost the match or won, I still never doubted myself, and I never will. It just how I am. But of course, man, the people around you, my coach, my parents, my girlfriend, my best friends, like it's unbelievable like what sport can do to someone. You probably
yeah,
know it
yeah,
like on a certain level. I know you're a big
yeah.
passion for sports, but yeah, man, it's a
But so we
unique
have
journey.
a lot of people saying inspirational stuff, and to me it's inspirational. But there's one question which
Yeah,
I wanted to ask you, and you talk a lot about the mind, right?
yeah.
It's about sort of uh, the ability to fight adversity, to start
Oh
from
my
the
God, yeah,
bottom and move up. So there's a question about what do you do to stay sort of mentally in it, and also, I mean, a lot of it is, I mean, and you face a lot of pressure situations as well. So what do you do for calmness, for calming the mind, for staying mentally in it all the time?
yeah. So this was definitely something that was a big trial and tribulation for me, because initially I wanted to win, 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 which obviously, like, unless you're one out of maybe a billion people, that's gonna happen to you.
Yeah,
But I would definitely say I won more than I believed I would in the first year. However, you obviously lose, and I was not in a position where I've lost a lot in the last few years because in business it's very different.
yeah,
So one thing I would say is first it has to be with like just personal belief. Like how much do you believe in yourself? And sometimes people take longer to, develop that and sometimes people have it innately, but it can be developed. The
yeah,
harder you work, my whole idea is just hard work. I put in so many hours that I just don't believe anyone out there is working harder than me. Now, I'm not
yeah.
saying that's equivalent to results. That's not possible. But if I'm putting myself in that position to work so hard, to do one more rep, to do 5 more minutes, to eat a little better, to not eat that cookie, then I'm putting myself in. So that belief sets yourself a little higher. The second thing I would say is first I used to hate pressure because I wasn't used to it for so many years.
Yeah.
Now what I say is I embrace the pressure. I love it. It like pushes me, when I feel like, oh, this one beat me or this one said this or this one. Okay, cool. Now watch me. Like I'm going to do so much more. And I just need a little bit. That's me. Everyone's different, but embracing that pressure to work a little harder. And then finally, I would say beyond the support system, of course, which is excruciatingly important, I would say it's a whole different topic. But I would say positive mindset. Like no matter how bad your situation is sometimes, and of course we're in such a horrible situation now with the pandemic and all, if you can find one positive situation in a whole negative, then you're kind of like a winning mindset. because you
Yeah.
feel like, okay, this day was bad and I've eaten bad and I've done this, but I'm going to go run my bum off so that I can burn those calories and feel good. Okay, then the whole bad day kind of ends on a good note
Yeah.
and it's a positive day. So I would say these are probably the most important. And finally, support, man. Like, I will never undermine support. Family, friends, girlfriend, um, just coach, of course, my coach. Just, man, those people, when you don't see that positive in yourself, because there are days, there are 100% days in business, as in life, as in sport. They need to see the light in you when you can't see it for yourself, and that's
Absolutely.
truly important, man. Like, yeah,
I think one really important thing you said was work as hard as you can, because that's the
oh,
best you can do for yourself, right? Like
exactly.
luck and talent and all of those things are things we can't control. Those are out of
We
our
can't
control.
control, man.
But put as much as you can. And the second thing, which is something that I've seen in this amazing documentary, which I'm sure you've seen as well, which is
Yeah,
the Last Dance, right? It's
last
the best
dance, of
documentary I've
course.
seen ever. And he says that the winning mindset is what I learned from that documentary,
Killer
and that's
instinct,
amazing.
like,
Yeah, I have to win
I mean,
every
of
time.
course, I've literally watched it twice over. He's literally my number one athlete from since I could even remember sport. And yes, not only because he was a winner, it just because he would he would just be a ruthless person. And obviously, I'm not saying that that's how you should be as a person, but if you can apply that mentality, that killer instinct, that mindset to yourself daily, then you are putting yourself up for a position to be successful in whatever it is you do. And my mindset is obviously after seeing a lot of athletes and learning and reading and this and that, I would say is that you have to believe you're the best. Obviously, like not everyone can be the best, but if you believe that, then somewhere along the line, with patience and hard work and real discipline, I think it starts showing in its own way. And that's what's important, right? Like, I have to go into every match thinking I'm going to win. Yeah, of course, like otherwise, there's no point of doing anything, I believe. Um, but if you do, you don't. It's all overcoming adversity, which is such an important thing in sport. I mean, I remember Roger Federer saying something like this, like, if you don't win the tournament, which is beat every single person, you essentially go home a loser. Correct.
Yeah,
Like even the
yeah,
guy who goes to the finals, who's got through five, six tough, grueling matches, still goes home a loser.
yeah,
So you have to learn how to embrace losses. You have to like fail but fail forward, like Will Smith says, stuff like that that just really sits in my mind.
yeah.
And definitely a year and a half later, I feel like the maturity has kicked in, and I'm being more patient with myself, as I think everyone should
Yeah.
be. Yeah.
So tell us about, like, a lot of us have not had the good fortune of playing so many tournaments and those kind
Yeah.
of things, and we only live it vicariously, right? So tell us about life on the road, some amazing experiences you've had,
Yeah.
some big wins, some crazy experiences.
Yeah, so I would say one, sport just gives you that platform to travel so much.
Yeah,
Just in a single year, I was from Argentina to Australia to, Nigeria. I mean, places that I haven't really been very often, and
yeah,
it's a privilege. I have my parents to thank for so much of it because they give me this platform and this emotional and financial backing to be able to do all this. Um,
yeah,
but I would say one of the best experiences I had on tour was probably in my first year of like fully committing. I was in Nigeria, which I had never been, and it was a scary situation because the people who come to pick you up from the airport are like in guns, and you can't leave the hotel without like their guards and all. And I remember I was 2 love down, so squash is to 11 points in a game, and it's a best of five. So first three games, I was 2 love down, complete underdog. Obviously, you're just starting out. I was like 400 in the world and playing a guy I think 200 or 150 in the world, somewhere around that ballpark. I think 200 or something like that. And yeah, he was 2 love up, like 10-9 match ball up, and I fought back to win that match from completely being match ball down. It was like 60, 70 minutes, and then I went on to win my next match, and I think I won the next one. And then that kind of instilled this. I'm in a place where I don't know anyone. It's super scary. There's no one really in my corner helping me in the match. So
yeah,
you
yeah,
only
yeah,
have yourself to depend on. Like literally, it's like the closest to like being in a war, like a mental battle. And the food was not good. The hotel was like not great. But it's all about you have to learn to adapt. And I think that one situation, which was really early on in my career, taught me that this is not going to be easy. But if you can
Yeah.
get through this and a lot more in your life, you can get through a lot more. So that was a great experience and really pushed me on in this career.
No, that's a great story, and I think a lot of us don't have. I mean, we watch all the big sports, right? So we'll be watching the IPL, we'll be
Of
watching the
course,
Premier
of
League,
course.
and we'll be seeing all those fans. And fans really help you. Like people in your corner really help you. But
Oh yeah,
what you said is when there's nobody there, right?
yeah.
You're only there for yourself. So tell us about. I mean, you're on tour. You're probably playing the same guys or seeing the same people. Tell us about
Yeah.
relationships that you have with people on the circuit, and
So
that sort of camaraderie and that kind of
yeah.
stuff.
So I would say definitely, I definitely started this whole tour late. Um, but I'm a very like extroverted person. I like to make friends because at the end of the day, when squash is over, I do want to have relationships for the rest of my life. So it's hard to find a balance because squash is a solo sport. So you have to be quite ruthless and rude almost and relentless on the court, but then you want to try to take that off the court and just say, I'm done. Court is on the court and off. I have made some amazing friends, I would say, over the last year, year and a half. There's some people who you just won't get along with because personality differences, and sometimes you just certain differences, like as in anything in life, it can be not in sport but business or friends general. I definitely made some amazing friends. Some of the best friends would be, with me forever now.
Yeah.
And there's some people who you just see on a tour. I would say around where my ranking is, you don't necessarily play the same people all the time
Okay.
because I might be playing players in India who are Indian players. Then I go to Argentina and completely set of different players, but around the
Sure.
same ranking. So for
Yeah.
me at this point, it's great to play as many places and all the time because then you get an exposure of what countries and how players play in a certain country. They might have a similar style. So that's the cool thing. I definitely have made amazing friends and I really cherish those friendships. And then you have a few people who you just see once in a while. So, but definitely
And how do you
positive
how
than
do you
negative.
how do you make your schedule? How do you decide where to go, what tournament to play next?
All my
Is someone
coach.
deciding that for you or your
Yeah,
coach?
all my coach, because he's done it now for the top players for so many years. His whole goal was taking me on as a challenge, right? A guy who's not been anywhere, started at 600. Now can we get you to the top? And that was my goal with him. Like, I will give you every cell in my body, and as more than you probably ever seen it before, and he can see that. And
Yeah.
his challenge was, okay, how can I take this guy who's a physically strong player to the top? And he decides everything, what tournaments, how I should structure it, how my training program is structured. We have different things. So my coach will look after my squash program. Then I have a fitness coach for my fitness program.
Sure.
And it's separate, but now I've learned a lot on my own to know what works for me and not, because it's all dependent on you. Some
Yeah.
people can do a lot more, some people can do a lot less, so you don't want to risk yourself of injury. So you have to really figure out what works for you, and now I think I have. So that's good.
And tell us about now, right? Like maybe you played squash the last time 3 months ago or
Yeah,
three and a half
literally.
months ago. So what are you doing right now? For your fitness is fine, right? You can still
Yeah.
manage with that. But what are you doing right now to keep your sort of squash going? How are you managing that part?
So I would say for me, I enjoy watching squash because not only am I a player of the game, but I'm a student of the game. And I
Yeah.
think that's really important. So I love watching matches, looking at strategy, talking to my coach and watching my old matches and saying, what could I have done better?
Yeah.
So just being in touch with the game, then um, just
It's like
holding the
homework.
racket. Yeah, like homework, right? Like different kind of homeworks, but writing it down, really being analytical. And those are some of the hardest things to do because when you go and watch your old matches that you've lost, it hurts. You're like, oh
Yeah.
my God, I could have done
I
this.
could
But
have
when
done
you
that.
go
You're
through
right.
that mental thing that, it's okay, like that's in the past and I'm so much better now and I can do this differently. I would say definitely watching old matches and watching matches of top players. How do they do what they do? If I feel okay physically I can fairly compete, but then why are they so much better? They're doing
Yeah.
so much, so many things that so many small things better. So looking at top players, then just kind of like holding the racket every day, feeling it, remembering what it feels like to hit the ball, tapping the ball every day, stuff like that, that I can just be in contact with the racket and just yeah, tons of fitness, man. Like I don't know if you've been seeing, but I try to post a daily workout on my story every day so that a lot of
Yeah.
friends and family have said, initially when the lockdown started, can you help us? So I said, you know what, why don't I do it? And obviously
Yeah.
free. So now it's become kind of a thing, and I'm so happy that I'm able to help and inspire whoever's along this ride, because we are in a really crappy situation.
Yeah.
And if even a few people can benefit from some workouts that I'm posting, then that's good. So that's what I'm trying to do.
So we have two questions, and we're nearing the end of the session, but I'm going to ask
Go
you
for it.
both of these. These are slightly deep questions.
hmm
One is, where do you see yourself 3 years from now? And the other is, how do you deal with failure in the immediate moment?
So where do I see myself 3 years from now?
It's a tough one.
Yeah,
I
I
don't have an
mean,
answer for myself, so it's a tough one.
I would definitely say I hope to be a lot higher in the rankings, achieving more of my goals. I definitely have achieved a few, but I have so many more that I want. Also, just to be injury free, that's really important. We push our body so much, we take it for granted that everything's going to be okay, but hopefully top somewhere in the world, and that's
Yeah.
definitely my goal. Where I am, I don't know, but that's what I'm working towards. And yeah, to Alicia, Auntie, how do you deal with failure in the immediate moment? I would say it has changed over time, but right now is not to be too hard on myself because failure is
Sure.
inevitable. It is going to be part of the process. And now I've just looked at failure differently. I looking at it is I'm going to work at that much harder to not feel this again. And you fail again, and then you work that much harder and you evaluate. So I would say to not put pressure on myself in that moment because my whole life, now what I realize, does not depend on that one match. And that one match and that one failure doesn't define who I am as a person. It's only going to build my character from there to make me stronger for the next time around. So I would say, yeah, I'm not defined by that, and there's a lot more in life.
Country over the lockdown, Sunderland Till I Die, and they lost the playoff finals.
Uh-huh.
And at the end, a very powerful moment at the end where the chef says, these guys have felt this too many times, but they're going to come out so much stronger because they'll never want to feel this again.
Exactly.
Yeah. So Raghav, I'm gonna do one last question because we have two
Go for
minutes.
it.
Raghav said, "How do you do squash drills during the lockdown?" You talked a little bit, but maybe can you tell us a little bit more about what you're doing
More,
at
I
home
would
or in
say,
confined space?
unfortunately, not much with the ball because it's just about feeling the racket. But I do a lot of ghosting. If probably as a
Yeah,
squash player, you know what ghosting is, just
yeah,
footwork patterns. Like I've kind of created like a fake squash court down in the garage kind of area and the same size of it. And I do my
yeah.
movements, so I do that twice or thrice a week. It's horrible. It's 40 degrees. I just finished one today, but the feeling of just doing those movements feels like, and I literally visualize a match. I literally visualize the shot I'm playing. My opponent will play a particular shot, and then I hit that shot too. That's the best thing I would say right now to do some ghosting and feel that sensation of being on a squash court again, and just do it time and time again. You'll feel like you're there.
Super. So I think really inspirational session. A lot of people are really happy with the
Yeah.
session. For us non-sports people, I think it's, for me at least, it's always nice to talk to someone because I wish that I could have the talent to play. But I
Thank
know
you.
that today, I'm going to run a little bit more because I'm very inspired, and I know a lot of
I
people
appreciate it, man. Thank you so
on
much.
this session are really inspired. We'll be sharing some of Adit's workouts so that we know he posts them on the Dr. Vedia's page. Thanks for your time, Adit. Stay
Yeah.
safe, stay healthy,
Thank
and stay
you. And thank you to everyone who came here. Thank you for this conversation. I really appreciate it. And thanks to everyone who supports me. Thank you so much. I appreciate it, Arjun.
Take care. All the best.
Take
Bye.
care. Thank you, guys. Bye. Thank you.
Hi guys, my name is Arjun Vaidya and I'm the CEO of Dr. Vaidya's. I hope you like what you heard. If you want more content on health and Ayurveda in the 21st century, please click the subscribe icon. We've got a lot more coming for you.